If you've ever wanted to get revenge on a cheater, you're gonna love the weird, messed up way they do it in fairy tales. And yes, they involve chamber pots. This is wild. The name of this first story is called the Himphamp, and it's spelled like this. And if you're like, I don't know what that is, don't worry, you won't forget after this. The story is Scandinavian, but there are many versions throughout Europe, and we'll be talking about those variants. They all start with cheating. In this first version, it is a king who is sleeping with the wife of a local blacksmith. The king wants to get rid of the blacksmith, and so instead of just killing him or something, he says, "Blacksmith, you have to build me a castle. It has to be standing on 4 pillars and finished in 3 days or you die." So the blacksmith wanders off into the woods despairing, and he meets an old woman there. Always good news to meet an old woman in the woods and to be nice to her. He tells her what's up, and she says, "I'll teach you the magic to get this task done." And we don't know what that is, but he does, and he builds the castle. And the king's kind of like, ooh, okay, that didn't work. So he's like, now you gotta build a moat around it in 3 days, and it's gotta have all these specific things that are hard to do. And again, with the help of the old woman, he's able to accomplish it. So finally, the king is like, "I want you to find me a Himphamp in 3 days or you die." And the guy's like, "A what?" And he's like, "Just go find it." So our dude does not know what this is because the king's made it up. And so he wanders into the woods again, and the woman's like, "Oh, I'll tell you how to find a Himphamp." She says, "Make a chamber pot of iron and then hide under your bed. And when you see anyone touch it, whisper, 'Hold fast.'" If you're not familiar with a chamber pot, it was a pot that went in your bed chamber that you could use to pee and poop in instead of going outside. And you could just toss it out your window. So the blacksmith does what she says, like usual, and he hides under the bed, and then of course the king comes in to get it on with his wife. It says the lovers got undressed and the wife got into bed. Before following her, the king had to use the pot. It doesn't specify if it's a number 1 or number 2 use of the pot. Pick one and picture this next part however you want to. So he picks up the chamber pot, and the smith says, "Hold fast," and the king, wearing only his nightshirt, stuck to the pot. Then the wife, who is naked, jumped out of bed and tried to tear loose the pot, but as soon as she touched it, he whispered, "Hold fast." She also becomes stuck. So the king's enraged, the wife starts to cry, and the chambermaid comes in to see what's going on. It says she was half asleep and also stark naked, and she too becomes stuck like the others. So the smith chases them out of the house with an iron club, and they're all ashamed as they go out into the daylight and everyone sees them. The chambermaid grabs some hay to try and cover herself. Then a cow comes to try and eat the hay, so he gets the cow stuck to them. Then it says a bull comes to try to mount the cow, and the bull gets stuck to them. So everyone sees this ball of naked people and animals and chamber pot, and they're all laughing at them. And a small boy looks out the window and goes, "What a Himphamp." And that's apparently a Himphamp. In this version, he drives them all into the moat of the new castle where presumably they die, and like, the chambermaid really didn't deserve that. Or the cow or the bull. Anyway, then they make the new clever blacksmith their king, because the king's dead. That's some revenge. Now, there's a German version called The Smith and the Priest, where again, it's the blacksmith being cheated on, but instead of the king, it's a local priest. And the priest just cons the king into these impossible tasks for the smith for the same reason. And also in this version, the smith meets an old man who helps him instead of an old woman. Now in that one, they don't die. He releases them all, but then the priest is so ashamed after the town knows what he did that he never comes back. There's another German version where it's a sexton instead of the priest, and he beats them to death with his anvil. Yikes. Now there's a Middle English ballad called The Tale of the Basin, which is just like it, but different in some fun ways. This dude suspects his wife is cheating on him with a priest, so he goes to a parson who's like, "Ooh, I know some magic that can help you." Like parsons do. They get driven out in the big ball of naked people and animals, and our cuckolded guy, the guy who's getting cheated on, goes to the priest and he's like, "I think you ought to pay me or I'm just gonna cut off your equipment right here." It says that the priest, valuing his private parts, agreed to pay the fine. So then the pastor, the parson, spoke a charm over the basin, and then everyone was freed. And it says that the priest left because of shame again, but in this one, that the wife and husband lived together happily after that. There's another ballad called Jack Horner and the Innkeeper's Wife, and it's not the Jack Horner like sat in the corner or whatever. It's a different Jack Horner because he's a grown man. He's in debt to the innkeeper. And so to help pay his debt, he decides to help him get revenge on his cheating wife, who's cheating on him specifically with a Quaker. Just interesting, these are usually religious people. Okay, I just got to read these lyrics to you. So Jack's hiding under the bed. He heard the Quaker say that he had now a need to piss, and to the pot must go. Thought Jack, I do rejoice at this. So the pot gets stuck to him, specifically between his thighs, and he yells to the woman, I can't get it off. Quoth she, what is the man a fool? And straight to he she got, then laid one hand upon his tool, and the other on the pot. There she did tug and pull amain, in hopes to set him free, yet all their labor proved in vain. She stuck as fast as he. There's also a German one called Stupid Hans. That's actually what it's called. This dude, Hans, makes a deal with a rich man that if he works his land for 7 years, he can marry his daughter. Very biblical. But then the 7 years are up and the man forgets his promise, wants to marry his daughter to someone else. So Hans wants to get revenge. So he goes to the woods and just happens across a magical charm that can make things stick to each other and not stick to each other based on what he says. Quite lucky. On the wedding day of the chick he was supposed to marry, he watches them get married. He follows her and her new groom up to their bedroom. And when they get together to do it, he has them stick together. They don't get found until the next morning by their parents, who go to take them to a pastor because they figure he can exorcise whatever demon's making this happen. So it's a rainy day, and as the pastor is going to meet them at the church, Hans makes it, he's like lifting up his robes, and Hans makes it so that his robes are like held up and stuck to his hands, and he can't move his arms, so he's just showing off his junk to everyone. The dad figures out Hans is doing this, and he's like, everyone, let's beat the devil out of Hans. And so the whole townsfolk like are raising their hands to beat him with sticks, but he says, hold fast, the charm again, and they can't move. They beg him to stop. He frees everybody, and he's like, you better all give me whatever I want, or I'll use this charm again in the future. So they do. He doesn't marry the girl, but it says he died a wealthy and respected landowner. Now, if you're thinking all this is wacky, it is, but it's also based sort of on some ancient Greek and Roman myths. There's a Greek myth about Aphrodite, the goddess of love, who's married to Hephaestus, the blacksmith god. And again, there's blacksmiths in a lot of these stories, that she's cheating on him with Ares, and that he catches them by putting this magical chainmail over them and then invites all the gods to come see, and all the gods point and laugh and they are shamed. There's another one with the Roman versions, Vulcan, Mars, and Venus, basically the same thing. For more wild and wacky tales, you can check out my podcast, Folktales and Fairy Lore. The link is in my bio. I have this as my YouTube channel. I'm here on Instagram, and also my book, Dust Spells, which is a reimagining of the 12 Dancing Princesses, another fairy tale that it doesn't involve chamber pots. Share these stories with anyone you think needs to hear it, so maybe next time they'll think before they cheat. Still a good song. I'm not going to let anything ruin that for me.